Hello and welcome back to the Reaching Your Full Potential Online Tech Summit, where top experts share their secret tips to stand out from the crowd and to use technology to be uber successful. Today, I have Edward Macdonald with me. Edward Macdonald has been using life coaching to improve millennial professionalism, focus and interpersonal skills for his entire career. He is the CEO of AGL Coaching for Good, and it is pretty much an online business. And I'm honored to have you here today. Edward, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Thank you very much, Shahid. Yeah, so I was born in South Carolina, raised there, moved to Colorado 3 years ago, started AGL Coaching for Good. My business partner, one of them anyway, and I are now married. That's been a fun journey, going from friend to colleague to business partner to we are married. So I'm very thankful for that. Really why AGL exists and why I do what I do is I want people to wake up and love Monday. I've had the privilege of some amazing jobs and some not so great jobs. And I think what I've learned as a coach and probably as a CEO too with the team is that when people go to work and they love what they do and they're working in their strengths and they love each other and they trust each other and they trust their boss, the kind of work that gets done and the way that you all feel when you go home at the end of the day is totally different. It's being engaged in what you do. And if you're not engaged in what you do, you're a slave for the better half of your waking life. So I wanted to live in a world where people get up in the morning and they say, yes, what I do is an extension of who I am and it brings me joy. And I am contributing to my world at large and I love my team and I trust my boss and I'm working in my strengths. And we're here to make that happen at AGL.
Nice. No, that's a good intro for sure. I'm definitely waking up to enjoy your Mondays. This definitely starts your week off in the right way for sure. So, based on what we talked earlier and, in our previous conversations, you talked about some of how, you've been pretty much been online and how you have a lot of clients that are online. So why don't you tell us your journey towards online, how you got there?
Yeah, remote work. So I was privileged actually to join the workforce at a time where remote work was not uncommon. And my first employer actually allowed me to work remote. So I would go into the office a few times a year. But it was more honest because I wanted to than because I had to. I loved working remote. I love setting my own schedule. And when I built my own business, I wanted the same thing. I've had the privilege to travel a lot to gain cultural perspective, the UK, Ethiopia, South America. And that cultural perspective helps me tremendously in what I do. The two things that I look for when I look for friends, and I was talking to my wife about this recently, was, are you a reader and are you a traveler? So far in my life, if you're a reader and you're a traveler, your lens, your worldview, your scope on the world that you live in is very different. And it's a good thing. So the ability to work remote gave me that freedom to travel and to expand my mind and my perspective and my context. And I think that made me a better employee and a better boss now, and I'm just a better person. I think it also, as a friend of mine, another CEO, Chris Dyer was talking about, I interviewed him recently, and he was mentioning that the human mind works best when it has time to think. And the environment of home and the pace of work at home is much more conducive to that thought, to that introspection, to that problem solving, and to the distance you need to work on your business, not work in your business. So I'm a huge fan of remote work. And I think it's one of the best things perhaps to come out of COVID is that we're all having to do it. I've heard people say for years, oh, it won't work for my team. And the entire world is now doing remote work and it has been for months. And nothing came to a grinding halt. I would argue things that did come to a grinding halt wasn't a result of remote work. So I'm a huge fan of remote work. And studies have shown that teams that work 60 to 80% remote are by far the healthiest, happiest, most engaged people, and they stick around longer. So that's a magic number.
Right. No, definitely true. The world has definitely changed. That's what I was going to ask you, like, especially, in today's climate where everything is different now, everything is remote, how do you adapt and kind of especially today's climate. And obviously, like you mentioned, we have had to adapt to work from home, right? But how else can you adapt for those who have not been, sort of in this framework of working remote or working from home?
Yeah. So the biggest thing for me was getting out of a 9 to 5 mindset, and that may sound scary to employers and employees. As an employer, you may not want your employees getting out of a 9 to 5 mindset, but there's a lot of different models for work. The 9 to 5 mindset is largely based on the school schedule for our kids. And the 8-hour-a-day mindset came from Henry Ford back when we were working in factories. This is where we were locking people in factories until they got their work done. The world's changed a lot since then. So I would encourage you, if that's your reaction to getting out of a 9 to 5 mindset, to just detach from the emotions for a second and listen to it and be curious about it, because it's a fun concept. At the end of the day, the goal is to get work done.
Right.
The goal is to grow your business. The goal is to make your customers feel valued. The goal is to communicate well with your team. The goal is to deliver a service or product that's exceptional. If you're doing that, it doesn't matter when you're doing it, as long as you're meeting those guidelines. And it works. I can get up. I can go for a walk with my wife and my dog. That may be like this morning. I got up at 7 o'clock because the dog wanted to go out at 7 o'clock. So I got up at 7 o'clock, went for a nice long walk. There are other days it might be 10 o'clock, but I was up late working on a project. I designed something for a client. I was up until 3 a.m. one night, and I could do that because I was in the zone. I was in the zone. It turned out great. But that flexibility to work with your own schedule and work with your focus is huge. I'm a big fan of education, curiosity-based learning. This is basically passion-based work. You're working when you're interested. And I would posit, if you're engaged in your work, you trust your boss, you love your team, and you're connected to your strength, you will be engaged in your work. You will be interested in it. There'll be passion and drive, and you will do good work. And if you do it 4 hours one day and 15 hours the next day, it doesn't really matter. I could go on that one for a long one, but kind of remote work, and it takes a big shift to break out of the 9 to 5 mindset. But as long as you're available for meetings and meeting your clients' needs, there's a lot of freedom to be had and a lot of benefit to be had as well.
Right. No, that's true. I know, obviously from the 8 to 5 and 9 to 5, obviously the mindset is definitely ingrained in, and especially now that we're on at home, you just realize, okay, sometimes you don't realize as well the time that goes by, and you realize you're actually working a little bit more differently. Right. So, but yeah, definitely a valid point for sure. Based on this, and you kind of mentioned something about passion there, right? Can you tell us a bit more about that? How do you bring passion, and how do you sort of find your passion, especially for, and this comes down to one of my questions I want to ask you as well, which is related as well, is how do you know when you have the right idea, and is the passion your idea as well to kind of take forward? So
those are big questions.
I know.
I'll hit the first one first, and many to remark on the second one. So passion flows from values. Company values, personal values, and an alignment there. And not values in the traditional sense, perhaps, but just like it's your soul print. It's who you are as a human. Brene Brown has a great values inventory in one of her latest books. Values in Action, the VAA assessment from Martin Seligman over at Penn State, has been the gold standard in my industry of life coaching for values assessments. And we use them with all our clients. Your values are what drive you. It's literally your soul print. And if you can connect what you're doing to your values, it will make you come alive. Every single issue we see in the human race is a disconnection from our values. Our strengths flow from our values. So executives the world over are very familiar with the Gallup and the strengths inventory that they offer. The Clifton strengths, what they used to be called. Clifton was the first person to inventory them. Strengths flow from values. So strengths are solid. If you want to work with strengths in your team, it's a really good place to start. But if you are working in your values, your strengths flow from your values, you're working in your strengths, there will be passion there. There can't not be. And more often than not, when we have clients that come to us and say, hey, I either want a promotion or I want to leave, we've heard that. And it's funny. It's like, well, that's a really diverse range of options there.
Right.
The issue is they're not finding what work in their values or their strengths. And so often the discontent we see in people in the workforce, the hopping from job to job, or the disengagement is staggering at work, and it costs millions.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be shocked, go do some Googling on the cost of disengagement for employees. It's one of the reasons we do what we do. It blew our minds. So expensive. But anyway, you when your team is working in their values and they're working in their strengths and they're more engaged, if they're not there, they'll be miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And they may think it's your fault as an employer, right? You may think it's your employer's fault. You may hop from job to job or change careers or change industries, right? There may be substance abuse involved. You're going to be unhappy. And the solution there isn't finding the magic job. You probably have a great job and a great life. It's learning to know what you want in life, connect it to your values, and see it in your current life.
Right.
Because it's not that far off. It's your lens has to change.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big part of what we do. So that's where passion comes from. It's your values. And I could explain to you, if I showed you my values, I could tell you why Wake Up and Love Monday is a part of my value set. And it's really important to me. It's kind of an amalgamation of my values. The life that I get to live and the life I can help others live connects to my values intricately. And it's why I love what I do.
Right.
So if you want a passionate team or a passionate life, get some coaching around your values. You owe it to yourself and the world.
No, it's good. That's a good, definitely perfectly put, for sure. Your values are definitely play a big part, and your passion obviously in turn. So why don't you tell us about the idea as well? How do you know when somebody has the right idea, especially the people that you've worked with or the clients that you've had, and how do you kind of coach around that?
Yeah. So one of the hard lessons for me personally over the last few years has been this concept of right. I like to get it right. I like to do it right. I was raised and trained to do it right. I like to do things right. I'm not sure it's the best metric for success. Was our business idea right? When I packed up my 4Runner and drove across the country, and built a business, self-funded business from the ground up, and was living on $200 a month for a while, was that a good idea? I don't know.
Right.
It made me come alive. I learned. I love what I do now. I love what I did then. I love who I met and the opportunities I had and what it taught me and who I became. Like, maybe the metrics off. We're so focused on doing it right. Like, I would much rather have a teammate say, I have an idea. It's like, cool, let's try the idea. And if they have an idea and they put the effort into the idea, and it's a horrible idea, like it totally bombs and the company loses thousands of dollars, but they put their heart and soul into that idea and they worked really hard on it. You know what? Cool. What an awesome employee. Like, that person just learned way more than that money they lost.
Right.
They're going to have tremendous loyalty to me if I treat them well. Maybe get away from the right, wrong perspective. I'm having to do it myself, and get to the place where you can say, you know what, like, was the effort put in? Was the creativity there? Did we learn things? Because if you're doing that, you're failing forward, and you can't do business perfectly. You really can't. I've made so many mistakes, but I've learned. There's a great quote from the movie Meet the Robinsons. I think it involves a peanut butter and jelly machine. But one of the quotes, the kid is like, he made this machine that it was an abject failure, and that the family was like, congratulations, you failed. And the grandfather was like, from failure you learn, from success not so much. And it's so true. And even in education, grading papers, telling kids their worth is based on how many questions they got right or wrong, is like, no, like, you put the effort in, congratulations, you finished all the questions on this test, you tried the 2 questions on here that were hard for you, and we'll sit down next Monday and we'll work on these 2 concepts till you get them right. It's a long-winded answer to your question, perhaps not the answer you want, but I think I think there's a lot to failure and learning. I think there's a lot to the courage, the fearlessness that it creates, because that's where businesses come from. Like
Right.
that's where ideas come from. If I come to work and I'm fearless, that's what the goal is. The
Yeah.
ideas are ancillary. I can have 1,000 ideas in a day. The ideas are cheap, but the courage to actuate them,
Hmm.
that's what changes the world. So I would say that, and I would also say that often what succeeds is the person who doesn't give up
Hmm.
first. My bachelor's degree is in military history, and if I learned anything from studying military history, it's that it's all about cost tolerance. Um, Edison could have quit on his last unsuccessful light bulb. We would be living in the
Right.
dark, right? But we're not. We probably wouldn't actually. He had some competition, but that's beside the
Right.
point. The thing that makes people successful and businesses successful and the world successful is
Hmm.
that tenacity to keep going. So maybe focus less on the success and embrace the imperfection and work on your cost tolerance,
Right.
because the success ultimately comes from the person who just doesn't give up.
It's true. No, I really like the way you put it in. That there's no real definition of right, and I think that's the thing too, right? Like it's you kind of look at, as long as you put the effort in, and failure sometimes actually will grow you, right? Will make you different. Learn from those things and improve on for the next time. So but yeah, definitely very very, very nicely put. I like that. So based on this, you kind of addressed a little bit of it. How do you handle adversity and doubt, especially when it comes to the same kind of related thing? If you're working on something and you have doubts or adversity, how do you handle that?
Yeah. So a lot of my work as a coach is in neuropositivity.
Mm-hmm.
My next degree will probably be in neuroscience. I'm working with two professors in California right now, actually on a fellowship in applied neuroscience. But I love how it connects to coaching and what I do. And I'll try to keep this as non-nerdy as possible. But the question was about adversity. And I think the most powerful thing we have as humans is also the thing we're the worst at, which is controlling our thoughts and feelings.
Okay.
It's the only thing we really have at the end of the day. I cannot control anything else other than this world right here, the world in my head. Um, I can impact everything else through what I do in here, but this is where it's at. It's the only thing I have complete control of is the world in my head, my thoughts and feelings. And we don't teach people how to do that. We tell people to control their behavior, but your behavior is at best a conscious outflow of your thoughts and feelings, and more often than not, an unconscious outflow of your thoughts and feelings. So what we should be doing is teaching people how to control their thoughts and feelings. That's what I do. The kind
Right.
of coaching that I do ultimately goes back to, do you want your wants and know what they are? Do you have clarity, granularity around what you want in life? Are you working in your values and strengths? And are you controlling your thoughts and feelings? If you're doing those four things as a person, life will be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the solution to adversity. And
Right.
right now, the world it's gone mad. 2020 is the weirdest year in my lifetime. And as a student of history, it's the weirdest year in a long time. It's a
Mm-hmm.
weird year, and it's only half over. Um, and because we're so interconnected, I don't have to just carry the intellectual and emotional weight of what's happening in my neighborhood. I have to carry the intellectual and emotional weight of what's happening across the entire globe. I
Right.
hop on Facebook, and it's not just what happened in downtown Colorado Springs. It's what happened in Riyadh, and what happened in Jakarta, and what happened in San Francisco, and what happened in New York City, and what happened in Baltimore. And I have to hold all of that in my head and try to make sense of it. And that is emotionally taxing on a human skill that I don't think the creators of the internet ever thought about. We were not designed to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. We are not Atlas. And the result of that is that what was already a hard job, controlling our thoughts and feelings in our immediate environment, becomes an almost impossible job of controlling our thoughts and
Mm.
feelings when you have the trauma of the world on your laptop. So
Right.
the solution, I think, at the end of the day, to overcoming that is learning to control your thoughts and feelings, to controlling your emotions, to knowing what your emotions feel like and feeling them, to choosing positivity. There's tons of science on positivity, positive psychology, neuropositivity, the
Hmm.
importance of it for your biological health, for your mental health, what makes you as a person. We have not found a way to measure human thriving that focusing on the positive does not improve. Everything from your heart rate, your lifespan, to your hair growth, all of it. Every single way you can measure human thriving. Every single way. Focusing on the positive, controlling your emotions and your thoughts, it helps.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
that's the solution.
No, very nicely put. I really like that. Yeah, for sure. You're so right about the internet. There's so much weight on our shoulder, on our, I guess we say on our shoulder, but yeah, on our heads, thoughts, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely so well put. We're kind of reaching near the end. You have given a lot of tips and you kind of shared a lot of stuff. What's one tip you can share with us today if you implement today to have success?
Hmm. So this is going to sound like a sales pitch, but it's not. I'm not saying get coached by me. Go get a coach. Um, I I have been immersed in the life coaching profession, and when I say life coaching profession, I mean as governed by the International Coach Federation, ICF, life coaching. I've been immersed in that since 2012. Immersed, um, and I've had a life coach for most of that time. My life is unrecognizable from what it was then. Who I am internally, the growth that has taken place, the things I've achieved and accomplished. And I'm not here to talk about those things, but it changed my life. And now that I am a master certified coach and understand the process in the brain that's happening when you get coached, it is the panacea for the modern age. It is a powerful tool for growth. Find an ICF certified coach and get coaching. It will change your life.
No, thank you for that. That's a good tip for sure. I'm sure many people will resonate with that as well. Is there, one last thing that I want to ask you is, and you kind of addressed it a little bit too as well, is how can one be a good leader?
How can one be a good leader? Love. And that sounds really cliche, but just love yourself. The type A personality, we talk about it like it's this badge of honor in Western society. It is not. Go Google type A, what it is. It is a metric that was found to create heart disease. That's what type A is. We worship it. It's like, I want to be more type A and get shit done. No, you don't. Love yourself.
Yeah,
Take it easy on yourself. And love your people, love your team.
right.
If you love yourself and you love your team, you will be unstoppable. Because your
Right.
team will learn to love themselves. There's these things called mirror neurons in the brain. They're really fun. But basically, when a person who's following somebody else sees that person do something, if you have kids and you're watching this, you know what this is. Tell your daughter or your son to do something, but they see you doing something else. You find them doing the thing you were doing. It's called mirror neurons. There's some great videos online of bears in the park waving to people. That's mirror neurons. That's fascinating. That's interspecies mirror neurons, where humans have waved at bears and bears have waved back. There was an orangutan in the zoo who was washing their hands after COVID hit because they saw their zookeeper washing their hands. That's mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are fascinating. But what that means is if you are loving yourself and you're loving your team will love themselves and they'll love each other. And if you've got an environment of that, your team's never going to leave. They're going to be talking about how awesome your company is. They'll be your biggest fans. They will come to work engaged. They won't be playing Yahtzee on their cell phone. They'll be doing their work. They're going to come early and stay late. They're going to have great ideas. The basting of the brain in positive neurochemicals creates some amazing creativity. They'll be working in their strengths. Like, you'll be unstoppable. And we read all these books and watch all these TED Talks and hire consultants for thousands of dollars. Tell us what we have to do. And the answer is just love yourself and love yourself and love your team. And that's hard. Learning how to do that is hard, but it's simple.
Right.
It's so simple. You don't need You don't need a library full of leadership books, and I laugh because I've got a shelf of leadership books. You don't need a consultant.
Right. No, that's a good, yeah, thanks. On that note, that's a good tip for sure for anybody too who wants to, in the space for sure, entrepreneur and business, whatever you want to do, leader, you need to obviously, resonate yourself with everybody else. Is there anything else you want to add to the interview before we finish?
Yeah, so one of the things we do for our clients are 360 assessments, and we love them because the impact they have on a leader and on a team are pretty profound. A lot of insight. You get unlimited peer feedback in them, so you can send it out to anybody in your life, from mentors, people at the Rotary Club, your employees, former employers, consultants, and you get a 60-page report based on that feedback. You get a written analysis of that report. So what does it actually mean? How do you apply it to yourself? And then we'll coach you for 4 hours. You'll get 4 hours of life coaching around the results and what they mean for you and how to apply those lessons. The insight it's asymmetric. It's really a solid one. So we're very big fans of the 360 assessments. It's usually $1,350. If you're listening to this to the end of this month, we'll offer it to you for $250. So over $1,000 discount. It's below cost, honestly, for us to do it at $250, but it's a life-changing assessment. So that's, if you're interested, email impact, IMPACT, at coachingforgood.org, COACHINGFORGOOD.org.
Perfect. Thank you for that offer. And what we'll do is we'll keep that email address so it's easy for people to remember that as well. Yeah, thank you so much. It was a very good conversation. I really enjoyed it. And thank you for your time, and wish you best of luck in your,
Yeah, I enjoyed
thank
it.
you. Thanks.
Bye.